The rain poured so hard that night it blurred the highway into a river of headlights. Just as Mark Sullivan was about to close his small roadside diner, he noticed a teenage girl shivering on the bench outside. She couldn't have been older than 16. Her clothes were soaked, her backpack was torn, and fear filled her eyes. When Mark gently asked if she needed help, she hesitated before admitting she had nowhere to go. Every instinct told him to be careful. But as a widowed single father raising his 10-year-old son, he couldn't bring himself to leave a frightened child alone in the storm. He offered her a warm meal, a dry blanket, and a safe place to sleep in the diner's small office until morning. The girl introduced herself as Emily but refused to say much else. She insisted she wasn't a criminal and begged him not to call anyone. Mark noticed bruises on her arm but didn't pressure her for answers. Instead, he simply told her that everyone deserved one safe night. His son Noah even shared his favorite hoodie with her, making Emily smile for the first time in what looked like weeks. The next morning, before the diner became busy, several police cars suddenly pulled into the parking lot. Customers stopped eating as officers entered the diner, followed by a well-dressed woman whose face showed equal parts fear, anger, and relief. The officers asked if a teenage girl had spent the night there. Mark's heart sank. He immediately wondered if he had unknowingly sheltered someone dangerous. Emily slowly stepped out of the office with tears in her eyes. The woman rushed toward her but stopped just short of hugging her. For several tense seconds, neither of them moved. The silence felt heavier than the storm outside. The officers quickly explained the situation. Emily had been reported as a runaway 2 days earlier. Her mother, Catherine Brooks, had spent every hour searching for her with police, terrified something terrible had happened. Mark expected Emily to run into her mother's arms, but instead she quietly stepped backward. Only then did the truth begin to unfold. Emily explained through tears that she hadn't run away because she hated her mother. She had run because she believed she was destroying her family. After her father's death the previous year, she blamed herself for every argument, every unpaid bill, and every moment her mother cried alone. She believed everyone would be happier if she simply disappeared. Catherine broke down crying. She admitted she had become so overwhelmed by grief and financial struggles that she hadn't realized how deeply her daughter was suffering. She had spent months trying to stay strong, never noticing Emily was carrying the same pain in silence. Mark quietly watched the heartbreaking reunion. He recognized that kind of grief because he had lived it himself after losing his wife. He gently encouraged them to stop blaming themselves and start listening to each other. Sometimes, he said, people don't need perfect answers. They simply need to know they are still loved. The officers, seeing there was no crime beyond a frightened teenager running from heartbreak, closed the case peacefully. Before leaving, one officer thanked Mark for giving Emily a safe place instead of turning her away. Had she spent another freezing night alone, the outcome could have been far worse. A week later, Catherine returned to the diner carrying homemade pies. She explained that she and Emily had started family counseling and were slowly rebuilding their relationship. She thanked Mark for treating her daughter with compassion instead of judgment during the worst night of her life. Months passed, and the diner became more than just a restaurant. It became a place where lonely travelers, struggling families, and people facing difficult moments always found a warm meal and a listening ear. Emily often visited after school, helping Noah with homework while Catherine volunteered during community charity events hosted by the diner. Looking back, Mark realized he hadn't changed the world that rainy night. He had simply refused to close the door on someone who needed hope. Yet that one act of kindness reunited a broken family, reminded a grieving mother that love must be spoken as well as felt, and taught Emily that running away from pain could never heal it. Sometimes the safest place in the world isn't a fancy house or an expensive hotel. Sometimes it's a small diner where a stranger chooses compassion over suspicion, proving that one night of kindness can become the beginning of an entirely new life.